I called her beauty queen, she glared and said. Watch your tone, human. My heart stumbled. He didn't wear tailored suits or carry diplomatic credentials. He was a systems technician, one of many working behind the scenes at the International Peace Summit in Geneva, the largest diplomatic gathering ever hosted, where world leaders met to prevent conflict and forge lasting peace. Marcus spent most of his time fixing broken microphones, updating translation software, and drinking too much coffee from the machine on the third floor. He was good at his job and preferred staying away from important people until one afternoon. Everything changed. It started like any normal shift. Marcus received a maintenance alert about a faulty translation unit on the executive floor. It wasn't urgent, just one of those minor glitches that made delegates hear strange translations or get names mixed up. He packed his toolkit and took the elevator, not realizing he was leaving his comfort zone far behind. The executive floor was pristine polished marble, soft golden lighting, and the kind of silence that money bought. Security guards stood at attention near doorways, their presence subtle but unmistakable. The walls displayed flags from dozens of nations: Switzerland, the United States, Japan, Brazil, and many others. Marcus walked quickly, head down, focused on reaching the translation hub near conference room C. Then it happened. Turning the corner too quickly, he collided with someone hard. His toolkit scattered across the marble floor, tools clattering everywhere. Sorry, he said quickly, looking up, and there she was. She was tall, elegant, and clearly important. Her skin had a warm olive tone that seemed to glow under the corridor lights. Her dark eyes were sharp and intelligent, framed by perfectly styled black hair. She wore an impeccably tailored burgundy suit that probably cost more than Marcus made in 3 months. A small gold pin on her lapel indicated diplomatic status. Her expression was unreadable, somewhere between irritation and curiosity. Marcus blinked, his brain short-circuiting. Then, in the most stupid move of his life, he chuckled nervously and said, "Well, hello there, beauty queen." Silence fell like a guillotine. Her eyes narrowed dangerously. When she spoke, her voice was crisp, accented, and ice-cold. "Excuse me?" Marcus felt his stomach drop. His heart hammered against his ribs. He had just insulted, no, disrespected someone who was clearly a high-ranking diplomat. She stepped forward, looking down at him with measured grace. The hallway was empty except for them. "Do you know who I am?" she asked sharply. Marcus swallowed hard. No. I am Dr. Elena Vasquez, Deputy Foreign Minister of Spain, and Chief Negotiator for the European delegation to this summit." She paused, letting that sink in. "And you just called me beauty queen." Marcus just blinked. An hour later, Marcus sat nervously in a quiet office, rubbing his face. Across from him, a short man in a crisp black suit looked over a tablet. "You called the Spanish Deputy Foreign Minister a beauty queen?" To her face, Mr. Harrison from Human Resources said warily. Marcus sighed. "I didn't know who she was. I just bumped into her and panicked." Harrison looked tired. "Do you have any idea how delicate these negotiations are right now? Spain is crucial to the climate accord." Marcus looked down. "So I'm fired?" Harrison sighed. No, she didn't press for disciplinary action, but she demanded something else. Marcus looked up. "What?" Harrison cleared his throat. "You're being placed in a cultural sensitivity program. Starting tomorrow, you'll attend daily sessions with Dr. Vasquez herself. You'll learn about international protocols, diplomatic etiquette, and proper conduct. You'll serve as her technical assistant during her stay here." "That's insane." "It's not optional," Harrison said flatly. "It's this or get transferred back to municipal IT with a black mark on your record." Marcus groaned and leaned back in his chair. "This is going to be hell." The next day, Marcus stood outside the executive conference room, trying not to sweat. His usual casual clothes had been replaced with an uncomfortable formal shirt and tie. The doors opened, and Dr. Elena Vasquez stood inside, her posture perfect. Today she wore a navy blue dress with subtle silver accents that somehow made her look even more formidable. She looked at him with the same cold gaze. "You're late." "Sorry. I got lost. Your first lesson will be punctuality." She turned away. "Follow me." For the next hour, she walked him through the diplomatic wing, pointing out protocols, explaining international customs, and outlining rules of conduct. She spoke clearly but never repeated herself. Marcus struggled to remember everything. At one point, he dared to ask, "Why are you doing this?" She stopped and faced him. Because diplomacy is fragile and careless words can destroy years of progress. If I can educate one person, it might prevent future incidents. Marcus frowned. I didn't mean to offend you. I believe you, she replied. But good intentions aren't enough when you represent your institution. That stung, but Marcus nodded. Their sessions continued daily. Slowly, things began to change. They moved from rigid protocols to actual conversations. Elena told him about her homeland, the hills of Andalusia, the architecture of Madrid, the weight of representing her country on the world stage. She explained how diplomatic children were raised with constant scrutiny, how emotions were considered weaknesses in international relations. Marcus, in return, shared things about his world: American music, comedy shows, awkward high school experiences, and late-night movies. She didn't always understand, but she listened. Sometimes they debated, sometimes she rolled her eyes at his jokes, but sometimes, just sometimes, she smiled. One afternoon, while explaining the concept of diplomatic immunity, Elena asked, "Do Americans ever feel embarrassed when they laugh at inappropriate times?" "All the time," Marcus replied. "It's called being socially awkward." She raised an eyebrow. "You wear it openly rather than hiding it. Better than pretending to be perfect," he said. She didn't respond, but he caught her watching him as they walked. A week later, something unexpected happened. A fire alarm rang out as they passed through a maintenance corridor on their way to a joint session. The building's voice system announced, "Fire detected in the East Wing. Evacuate immediately." Marcus grabbed Elena's arm. "This way." "But my security detail, they won't reach you in time." Without thinking, he pulled her toward a side exit as smoke began filling the main hallway. A ceiling panel crashed down where Elena had been standing moments before. They ducked into a stairwell as the lights flickered and emergency systems activated. Her eyes wide, Elena looked at Marcus, really looked at him. You risked your safety for me." He shrugged, breathing hard. "Wouldn't look good if I let a diplomat get hurt on my watch." For the first time, she laughed. It was brief, genuine, and completely unguarded, and Marcus felt his heart skip. Later that night, alone in his small apartment, Marcus stared at the ceiling. He was in trouble, not because of the fire, which turned out to be a minor electrical issue that was quickly resolved. Marcus was in trouble because he couldn't stop thinking about her. She wasn't just beautiful. She was brilliant, confident, and underneath that professional mask, genuinely kind. He had seen that side of her, but she was a high-ranking diplomat, and he was just a guy who fixed microphones. This couldn't go anywhere, right? And yet, every time she said his name with that smooth, accented voice, it made him feel like he mattered. The next day, Elena surprised him. She handed him a small, silver pin shaped like an olive branch. "It's a diplomatic cooperation badge," she said. "Only given to those who show genuine growth and international understanding." Marcus stared at it. "Are you proud of me?" "I'm impressed," she said softly. "That's not something I say often." He tried to joke. "So I can call you beauty queen now?" She looked him dead in the eyes. "Do that and I might have you deported." He laughed nervously, but she was smiling again, and Marcus knew this wasn't hell after all. It was just the beginning. Their training sessions became less formal. Elena started asking questions about American culture, music, art, humor. "What is sarcasm?" she asked during one lesson. "It's when you say something but mean the opposite," Marcus explained. She looked confused. "That seems counterproductive." "It's fun," he said. "Watch, I'll demonstrate." He picked up a diplomatic briefing and held it up. "Oh great, another trade agreement analysis. I'm so excited." She blinked. "You sounded excited." "No, that's sarcasm." She tried. "This lesson is very enjoyable." Marcus laughed. "Perfect. You've got it." Her lips curved slightly. One afternoon, Elena invited Marcus to the rooftop garden of the Diplomatic Center, a beautiful space with plants from around the world, overlooking Lake Geneva. The Alps rose majestically in the distance, their peaks touched with snow even in late spring. "This is where I come to think," she said. They sat by a small fountain. "May I ask you something?" she said. "Sure. Why do you hide behind humor?" Marcus looked at the water. "Because being serious all the time is heavy. Jokes make things lighter, but your smile isn't always genuine." He sighed. "No, it's not." "You're afraid." He shrugged. "Aren't you?" Elena didn't answer immediately. Instead, she placed her hand gently over his. It was warm, steady. I have never shared this space with anyone, she whispered. Marcus's heartbeat quickened. I'm honored. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over the lake, but not everything was peaceful. That evening, Marcus found a message slipped under his apartment door. You've forgotten your place. Stay away from the diplomat or face consequences. His stomach dropped. Someone didn't like how close he and Elena were becoming. The next day, Marcus tried to act normal, but Elena noticed immediately. You're distracted. Didn't sleep well. Bad dreams. She studied him. You're not telling me everything. I don't want to cause problems. Her voice sharpened. We're past that point. Speak. He hesitated, then showed her the message. Elena, read it, her expression hardening. This paper, its official diplomatic letterhead. Someone from the delegation sent this. Marcus blinked. You mean someone from your own people? She nodded. Likely someone who disapproves of our association. I don't want to make things worse for you. Elena touched his arm. You haven't made things worse. You've made them. Interesting. That night, Elena sat alone in her hotel suite, looking out at the lights of Geneva reflected on the lake. She thought about Marcus's laugh, his awkward smile, his genuine heart. She had met many people in her diplomatic career, but none like him. He didn't try to impress her or use her for connections. He just was himself. But the message worried her. The Spanish delegation was traditional, formal. If someone thought her friendship with an American technician was unprofessional, she closed her eyes. For once, she didn't know what the right diplomatic move was. Meanwhile, Marcus stared at the same lake from his apartment window. He knew things were complicated now, but the thought of staying away from Elena felt worse than any threat. When she looked at him, he felt truly seen for the first time in his life. He couldn't walk away from that. Marcus woke the next morning with a heavy feeling in his chest. The anonymous threat still haunted him, but when he thought about Elena, her curiosity, her rare genuine smiles, the way her eyes lit up when she finally understood a joke, he couldn't imagine stepping back. He arrived at their session early. For once, Elena entered the conference room, her expression tense, but her eyes immediately seeking his. You came, she said. I wasn't going to, Marcus admitted. But then I thought, what's the point of living if we don't take risks? She looked at him closely. You're braver than you think, Marcus, he chuckled. Or just stupid. Perhaps both, she said, a small smile touching her lips. Their lesson that day felt different. Elena stood closer, looked into his eyes longer when he spoke. She even laughed, more real laughter, not diplomatic politeness. When Marcus tripped over his own feet during a formal greeting demonstration, she laughed so hard she had to sit down. Okay, that one was your fault, he groaned from the floor. I warned you about posture, she teased. You know, you're kind of mean when you're comfortable. And you're clumsy even with instruction, she shot back, her dark eyes twinkling. Later, in the rooftop garden, Marcus asked something that had been bothering him. Elena, why are you really doing this? She tilted her head. Doing what? Spending time with me, laughing, sharing things. Isn't that dangerous for someone in your position? She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, when I was young, I used to sneak away from protocol lessons to listen to the kitchen staff tell stories. My father found out and was furious. He said, a diplomat does not lower herself. That's harsh. He believed it. So did I, until I met you. Marcus looked at her. I'm not that special. You're honest, she replied. You challenge me without trying to use me. You make me feel free. And you make me feel like I matter. The next day brought crisis. Marcus arrived at the diplomatic center to find security guards waiting. Elena stood nearby, her face pale but determined. Behind the guards stood Dr. Carlos Mendoza, Elena's superior and head of the Spanish delegation, a stern man in his 60s with silver hair and cold eyes. Mr. Chen, Dr. Mendoza said formally, you are no longer authorized to access this floor. What's going on? Marcus asked. Elena stepped forward. Someone filed a formal complaint about our professional relationship. They claim it's compromising diplomatic integrity. Dr. Mendoza's voice was ice. Dr. Vasquez, you have forgotten your position. This association ends now. Elena's jaw clenched. No, everyone froze. I said no, she repeated, her voice steady but fierce. I will not be treated like a child. I will not be ordered around based on someone else's prejudices. You will obey protocol. Mendoza snapped. I am protocol, Elena said. I represent Spain, and I choose how to conduct myself professionally and personally. Marcus stared in shock. This was the first time he'd seen her truly angry, not the cold anger from their first meeting, but something passionate and brave. Mendoza's eyes narrowed. Then you have made your choice. There will be a formal review when we return to Madrid. I accept that, Elena said calmly. When the confrontation ended and they were alone, Marcus said softly, you didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. It's going to cause problems for your career. I know. He looked at her amazed. Was it worth it? She met his eyes. Ask me in a year. That evening, they walked along Lake Geneva as the sun set behind the mountains. The diplomatic summit was ending, and Elena would return to Spain soon. So what happens now? Marcus asked. Elena took his hand. Now we find out if what we have is strong enough to survive the real world. He squeezed her fingers. Together, always, she said, then added with a smile. But if you ever call me beauty queen again, I might risk it, he said. She laughed, leaning closer to him as they watched the stars appear over the Alps. 6 months later, Marcus stood in a small classroom in Madrid, looking out at a group of young international studies students. He had left his job in Geneva to accept a position at the Universidad Complutense, teaching cross-cultural communication. Elena had helped arrange it, but he'd earned it on his own merit. Let me tell you a story. He began and carefully practiced Spanish. Once, I called a diplomat beauty queen by accident. She nearly had me arrested. The students laughed. But that day, something started not just between us, but a whole new way of thinking about how people from different worlds can connect. He smiled. Words have power. Use them to build bridges, not walls. After class, he walked through the narrow streets of Madrid's University district, past cafes filled with the sound of animated conversation and the scent of strong coffee. He still sometimes couldn't believe this was his life now. Elena was waiting at their favorite tapas bar. Still dressed in her work clothes, she now served as a senior advisor on international cooperation, her career having survived and even benefited from her stand in Geneva. Her hair was longer now, softer, and she wore less formal clothing when they were together. How were the students today? She asked as he sat down, skeptical that an American can teach them anything about diplomacy. He said with a grin, smart. Students, she teased, very funny. He reached across the table to take her hand. Want to hear something amazing? Always. I used to think international relations were just politics, cold, calculated, impossible to understand. He brought her hand to his lips and kissed it gently. Now I think they're about people choosing to see each other as human. Elena smiled. Look at you, becoming philosophical. I learned from the best. They walked home together through the plaza. Mayor, past street musicians and late-night vendors. Their apartment was small but filled with light, decorated with mementos from both their countries' American jazz albums next to Spanish pottery, his mother's quilt draped over a chair beside her grandmother's lace curtains. I have news, Elena said as they reached their door. Good or bad? Good, I think. The EU wants me to head a new cultural exchange program. 6 months in different countries, building connections between diplomats and local communities. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Sounds like they want you to teach other diplomats to be more human. Something like that. She paused. There's a position for a technical coordinator. Someone good with people, experienced in cross-cultural communication. Are you offering me a job, Dr. Vasquez? I'm offering you an adventure, Mr. Chen. He pulled her close. What would I be doing? Helping diplomats remember that behind every flag is a person with hopes, fears, and dreams. Just like you helped me remember. And we'd be together? If you want to be. He kissed her then, right there in the hallway, not caring who might see. When they broke apart, he said, I have one condition. Name it. I get to call you beauty queen at least once during the whole program. She laughed, the sound echoing off the old stone walls. You're impossible. And you love me anyway. I do. She said simply, I really do. 2 years later, they stood together at the United Nations headquarters in New York, watching delegates from around the world file into the General Assembly. Elena wore an elegant blue dress with a small pin, the same olive branch badge she'd given Marcus that first week. He wore a proper suit now, though he still tugged at the collar sometimes. They had just finished presenting their cultural exchange program to the UN leadership. It had been approved for global implementation. Nervous? Elena asked.